in terms of what I look for us moving forward, it's like some coincidence of like, you seem like somebody who has a mature organization, have processes in place and are buyable, and are also at the point in your career where you're thinking, yeah, maybe it is time for us to look at making a change. So those are the two things that push the conversation forward.
Right. So if you hear that, okay, that's probably someone I should sort of lean into. What is the opposite? What do you hear, see in behavior of entrepreneurs that is a huge red flag for you, that you walk the other way?
Oh, there's a few of them. You can tell pretty quickly sometimes if they have expectations of the value that are out of line with the market. And
what kind of stuff do you hear?
Well, sometimes they'll just tell you a number. Like, I'm only selling my company for X, and X is like 10 times what the market will bear, right? And that's particularly true in high growth markets where they've heard that some SaaS companies sold at 12 times revenue, and they haven't really clued in that they're not a SaaS company, they're an advisor in the SaaS market, right? And so it's like 1 times revenue. So that's a conversation that ends pretty quickly. Sometimes it's a no. Sometimes you discover very quickly as well that they really don't have a second in command, that don't have any structure beneath them at all. They're running the company as a sole individual, and all the decisions are made by them. And that's really hard for us or anybody else to buy, because if that person gets hit by a bus, or that proverbial bus hits a lot of people, so they have a stroke or something, right? Suddenly you've just lost all the value in the organization. So that makes it really tough. I'd also suggest that client concentration for small companies is a real killer in our space. So if 65% of your revenue comes from one client, it's really hard for us to proceed with a deal, because there's just so much risk around that client and the relationship. And maybe they like working with small companies. Now they're not a small company, that goes away. So that's another one where it's very hard for us to get a deal done. Those are probably the biggest pieces. Sometimes it's the personality thing. Like, I originally got into the M&A activity at 𝙁𝙊𝙐𝙇𝙊𝙀 because I heard that 𝙁𝙊𝙐𝙇 was going down a road with a prospective acquisition. I knew the acquisition. I really didn't like the people and didn't want them to be part of the company I was working for. So I suggested an alternative acquisition for them, which we actually got done. So after that, it was like, oh, congratulations. Now you're like, you raised your hand, so you're involved in this, right? But there's a piece there where if the culture fit on the first conversation is so clearly off, there's not a lot of point on either side in rolling forward.
What would be an indicator to you of a mismatch in culture fit? Like,
arrogance is sometimes a big piece. Look, you should be confident in what you do and what you can do, but you should equally have some context for what you haven't yet accomplished, and that other people in the world have expertise you may not have. And not all entrepreneurs. It's maybe an occupational hazard that we have big egos, but there's a recognition that you're not everything. That's sometimes a deal killer. Sometimes it's we are a financially rigorous organization, and sometimes you realize that this is really a lifestyle business, and they're not really interested in growing this company, and they're not really even super interested in optimizing profits. They just want to be, hang out with their friends and go to work. Well, it's great, and God bless them. And honestly, that's a great way to live your life. It's just not viable by us, right? So that might give you some sense of where the fits aren't immediate.